can you look after him? I said, no. I said, I'm not looking after him. He said, you'll look after him. I said, no. You put somebody of equal rank in there to look after him. Not a WO1.
I was talking to him.
I ripped it, the other one. I got on with Ollie. Look at that mango mob here. Mango mob.
Yeah, he's the same when the nurse takes me into
Vai korore te ai ko ngā mano tua uri whāi o te tonu te kai anga o te rangi me te tenu e rote tana korore tana. Manto māna i tautoko mai ai nei akane ai. Pate atu he toa haramaira he toa. Translation for that, but a warrior falls, another will rise to take his place.
Kia ora tātou. Welcome. My name's Mike Penny. I come from the main suburb of Auckland, Waima, a little village which is bigger than Auckland.
just introducing each other.
I think about 4 years ago, I was at a hui with the 2 Mara battalion here in Wanganui at Kulkapa Tupō. And our ope had to stand up and introduce themselves. Came to my turn and I stood up. And tako e no, te matawakatangi hanga ko au ki tamatea pōkai te anu ki taratai. And everybody laughed, and I laughed along with him. But if you can't remember that, then you can call me Koro Ike.
Yes. My name's Ollie, but we shortened to Ollie because people couldn't pronounce my name in the army. My name was Tai Tingahare Ori Watakomo. As with the rest of my people from Ngāti Porou, before I start, Hikurangi is my mountain, Waiapo is my river, Ngāti Porou is my people. And I can be identified anywhere through Ngāti Porou. But my name came from my cousin, Tai Mohe, who was killed in 42nd in an action in the olive groves in Crete. 42nd Street they called it. And he died in the olive groves. So Tai Tingahare Ora means Tai of the olive groves, and that's where I got my name.
Kia ora, my name is Wirimu Kepa Wharemate Tāmihana. I joined the army in 1969. My name changed from Wirimu Kepa Wharemate to Tami. There's a lot of my friends didn't understand or want to say that long name.
I'm Don Medical. Waka o mātātua. Te ui Ngāti Pūkeo. I was born in Whakatane. Consequently, I moved to the post office, and we were post office in those days were responsible for putting up posters. Join the army, join the navy, and that was part of our role. I said to a mate of mine, another Māori bloke, what do you reckon? I kept looking at it, and I said, and I resigned from a civil servant for the government, and that was my first. And I joined the army.
We're having a party and somebody said, why don't you join the army? Because you've nothing to go overseas. So what do? I went and I joined the army. And then I wasn't until I got to Vietnam and I thought, oh, hang on, was this a good choice? But too late.
My turn came in 1969, and I was one of 24 armoured troopers who sent to Vietnam to serve with the 3rd Cavalry Regiment, Royal Australian Armoured Corps. So that was my introduction to Vietnam.
I come from a little family of 23, and education wasn't our thing when we were brought up, but working to survive.
Growing up in back home, well, by genealogy, my association with war as a soldier, it's been handed down, like, because I'm related by whakapapa through two people who have a marked historical point in our history of New Zealand. You have Te Koti, and I am related through that back to him. And of course you have the guy who chased him, Major Ropata Wawa, who has a lot to do with the area around here because he came across here. So you can basically say that's a heritage that's handed down from them. My family was virtually almost eradicated in the First World War. My uncles are buried in France. And of course, then you come to the 28 Māori Battalion, and then you'll find my cousin, my first cousin, is one of the first Māori awarded the Victoria Cross.
And I was very privileged to have been brought up in a place called Te Puke. It's on the coast there by Tauranga. And I have been blessed by meeting up with these lovely gentlemen next to me who became my mentors throughout my army career. So I've been very privileged to serve in the army. When I joined, I'd been given with the group that I was with, a political reason why we were going up to Vietnam. And so that made it a little bit more easier for me to accept. And the job that I ended up doing was I was a M60 machine gunner. What do I think about us going there? I think we did a brilliant job there. And I believe it's through that action in Vietnam that we don't have communism in the world today.
Well, on reflection, we have the benefit of hindsight here. The North Vietnamese and the South Vietnamese, exactly, and I compliment you on coming to visit us, being taken by how we exist and how we behave. And they are still fighting what we call their tino rangatirotanga, their self-expression, their right to their own autonomy. And we went there and we were fighting against exactly the principles we were fighting for here in New Zealand.
When I guess for me, there was lots and lots of denials about the things that were going around in my head, and it came to a point where I had to see, I saw it for myself that I needed to do something with all a lot of the stuff, because I wasn't talking about it, and it was actually very hard to talk about a lot of the stuff that happened.
As far as the effect that the war had on us, well, I think anything that you suppress, when you're scared and you can't, as a commander, you couldn't express any fear, because as soon as you did it, it infected the rest, just like that. So, as when I went for PTSD counselling, after about 3 years, he said to me, "You're the biggest liar there was in Vietnam. And I looked at him, what the hell is that all about? He said, you were able to suppress every negative emotion that you had, the fear and everything else, and yet come through it and think it was normal. The reason why you're suffering from these things is because you suppress those.
But I'll go back to when I first started the counselling. The counsellor asked me, what can I do for you? So I just said to him, see these? I've been carrying these around now for 37 years. Don't want to carry them around anymore. And he said, right, let's start. Because it was so painful just to talk about it. And it wasn't until that point that I didn't realise how painful the stuff was. I looked at trauma and realised that trauma is not just one big ball of problems. It's made up of a whole lot of problems. So the categories were battlefield, everything that happened when we were out in the jungle. For me, there was hospital trauma. There's also base camp trauma. And then there's also when you're out with your mates and you see them getting into trouble. So you have to deal with all of that stuff. But I'll go back to the battlefield trauma. There's stuff that happens out there on the battlefield. For me, it was two main incidences. The first one was we got into contact. Me being a machine gunner, having to look down, see my belt running away, no 2IC there, gun 2IC. So I called for a belt, looked around again, he wasn't there. So I realised I had to do it myself without stopping. And 600 rounds later, the job was done. So that was traumatic in itself, not having your 2IC around you. So it gave me the sense of abandonment. And that was hard to handle. The second one was jumping out of a helicopter and landing in a mangrove swamp, chest, with all my kit on. Freaking out because I only got a limited about 10 degrees arc of fire. I couldn't protect myself. So I freaked out a lot over that, and I had lots and lots of nightmares about that, about being abandoned and being stuck in the quagmire. So those were the two main battlefield stuff. The hospital stuff, I had my right ear blown out, and when you're in the hospital walking around with somebody with a bandaged head or no arm or no leg, they ask you, what's wrong with you, mate? So I just point to my ear. Then he realises that the ear's being blown out. But there's also another side of it too. I had 13 of my own platoon come in on the one day. So that was traumatic in itself. When I came out of hospital, went to get my gear and it was all gone, disappeared. So it gave me the sense that, shit, they passed me off for dead. And I had a hell of a time back in base about that because questioned my platoon commander, he just told me to go and get some more clothes, and questioned the platoon sergeant, he said, don't worry about it. At the same time, it was just welling up in me that my platoon commander and my platoon sergeant don't give a shit about me. So I carried that for 25 years or more.
So really, for me, I would like to express what I put to the government of the time, the Wintringham, and when they went around the country, the submission I made to them. And I feel that it's important that to hear this and to see another side when the insidiousness was done to our whānau and all intergenerational things to come. Waino tēnā ka kia hota. Nāku. Kia ora. I'm done and just continuing on what these my other comrades have expressed. We pride ourselves as a country of one nation, one people, a showcase to the world that of a government that guarantees justice, equal rights, privileges and status to all its citizens of all corporations, according to its status, charter and constitution. However, this notion can be quickly dispelled when one sector of its citizens is separated out by a covert piece of legislative manipulation. We, the Vietnam vets, whānau widows, and denying the same of the very principle it champions. Despite evidence produced that Vietnam veterans had indeed been exposed to hazardous and toxic environment during operations, and evidence used in the Reeves and McLeod reports was known to be fraudulent, flawed, and inaccurate. This then begs the question, who took the picture? What were they trying to conceal? Was there a hidden agenda? The Vietnam conflict became a political nightmare and a thorn in the side of the government. We became the sacrificial lambs, the scapegoats, call it what you will. The landscape had now changed. A government who we thought had our interests at heart and would provide the means to support and good governance became a government without scruples and morals. For we were spirited back to our homeland under cover of darkness, back to a situation not as noble warriors or descendant of noble warriors, but treated no better than second-class citizens. To this land of my forebears, our forebears, who fought in the great wars with distinction, and whose exploits and bravery are well documented throughout the world, which you can attest to. But Rommel would say to Hitler. And what a contrast. Their homecomings were scenes of jubilation, and a welcome befitting their status as noble warriors were enacted on many a marae. There was song, dance, speeches, and the most important of all, the last act of the complete process of tapu, necessary to lift or nullify tapu. For deep down in the pit of our stomachs welled up pent-up emotions about having gone away to free this beautiful land and yet feeling rejected like aliens in our own country. This whole question of commitment became apparent when thoughts about my comrades, our comrades who made the supreme sacrifice, their blood spilled on foreign soil, their wairu restless, wandering aimlessly. Let not their death be in vain. When the deed is done, may their glory be brought back to Aotearoa and rest in peace. We are also reminded about the times we cared and watched out for each other and the way we forged a lasting relationship with our Pākehā brothers. They grew out of the baptism of fire. However, we were to face a more deadly and silent enemy, which would decimate our ranks and the terrible legacy its effects on personnel, their families and generations to come could not have been foreseen or imagined. Was this the price for total citizenship in Aotearoa, New Zealand? We felt that we were totally committed to this land, the land of our people. This meant for me another commitment to be accepted by government as a person with rights and privileges I had fought for and we had fought for and bought. Concerns based on disparities between combatant and non-combatant standards of health have been well documented in several publications. Suffice to say that on most health indices, including mortality, morbidity rates, Vietnam veterans fare less well than their non-combatant counterparts of population. The concept of health is more than the absence of illness and provision of health services. For Maori, health consists of 4 dimensions. The taha wairu, the spiritual. The taha whānau, family. The taha inganau, mental. And the taha tinana, physical. Health is the taonga treasure to be protected and cherished. Health should be seen as a resource that enables people to develop an environment of opportunity, dependency, and a choice to a better life. And I quote this whakatauki, "Hūtia te rito o te harakeke, kehia te kōmako e kō. Ka ki mai kia hau, hea te mea nui a ta ao, mā ku e ki atu he tangata. Pluck the center from the flax bush, how can the bellbird sing? If you ask me what is the most important thing in this world, I will reply, it is people. This proverb can be heard throughout the land. These are strong words indeed. It places the human person above all things created. Yet with a reference to the singing of the bellbird, it also expresses our fragility and dependence on each other and other parts of creation. Kia ora.
Nā koe ni te nā tāku nei noho miharo nei Wanganui a kia tātou tēnei rangi. Ki tō tātou hoa. I listened to what has been spoken by my comrades here, colleagues here, and I wondered to myself, was I that naive? And as I introduced myself, I hated school. I didn't listen. I was uneducated. I left when I was 15. Like I said, we were like a vehicle processing factory. Once you turn 15, there's 23 of us, we got chipped out. And we had to learn how to survive. And it's those survival skills that were taught to us from being babies from our old people that pulled us through many traumas that we went through individually. And like I was saying, I must have been quite naive in many ways. And I guess very fortunate, very lucky that I pulled through a lot of these situations that one got into. Life is a challenge. And, setting your goals and setting what's in front of you keeps our minds working, and quite often it keeps them so busy that perhaps you're overlooking a lot of other things that have been happening. The only thing that I did very well, I think, in the army was drinking a lot and singing a lot and playing the guitar a lot, type of thing, and to hear these stories. I was told by one of my older brother not to go to Vietnam. I believe that it takes about 3 generations for this Agent Orange to go through the whole system before it's cleared right out.
Again, I'll speak on a personal level. When we talk about the Agent Orange and the effects, we had 2 reports done. One done by the McLeod report, which denied the fact that we were sprayed. And then a second one by Paul Reeves, and he also denied that we were sprayed. So the government was going to bury it at that stage, and it wasn't until the great Colonel Masters brought out all his maps of all the sprayed areas in our sector, and we were in all of them. In saying that too, I have been fortunate enough to father 4 children, and each and every one of them was born with a deformity. If not a deformity, 2 of them died with respiratory problems.
Yeah, I go along with everything that is said here again. But with regard to the relationship between Pākehā and Māori in New Zealand, I think it's all been said here. As far as Pākehā and Māori were as soldiers, they'd all saying, scratch one of us and the whole lot of us bled. That's what it was. But by the same token, we still had our own compartments we kept. Like, whenever we got short of fighting against Pākehā or Australians, we started to look at Ngāti Pro, he's Tūhoes, and he's from another tribe. So we started to fight that way. So we kept that thing. But Those were the things that kept us on our task was. And of course, one of them was we were Maori, and we were proud of it. But I was also proud of the fact that I can't completely go out and say I'm full-blooded Maori. So what does it tell us? Part of me is Pākehā. So I have to live I have the good side of the Pākehā side. That I hung on, anything that was rubbish, I threw it away and I hung on to the good parts. But the thing that kept me grounded was I was Māori. And I think one of the things, a lot of people know me and they start talking about things out there. But the thing that sobered me was about 3 weeks ago, my youngest son said to me, Dad, me and my brothers and my daughter, my sister have heard all about you, what you did in the war. We've seen it written, we've heard it said. We want you to write about it. We want to hear it coming from you. So I came back with the first excuse that these guys would be aware of, about ka te kumara rakuraku ana, yeah? Ka te kumara kora na motana reka. The kumara does not peel itself, neither does it speak about how sweet it is. And that has been my excuse all this time. And lo and behold, a week later, he rings me up and says, we need to go and talk about Vietnam to this German fella coming over. And I said, now how can you get away from that? And to hear distinguished people like my friends, and people I've trusted, and I trust now implicitly with my life. It humbles you. And then, because he says to me, we need you to write it there from your point of view. We've heard all about you and seen it written in the books, but we'll hear how it affected you. And of course then, getting from this therapist, you were the biggest liar out. Well, I've got to get past that lying thing and sort of come out and say, I was afraid, and this is how it happened. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity and to congratulate me and pay my respects to my esteemed friends here, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here either. I had several moments of almost, I got to the gates, the fellow up there didn't want me, the fellow who was stoking the fires didn't have a poker for me to use, so I just sent me back in, and here I am in front of you. Kia ora.
Courage.